are listening to pause. We pause for a second or two. This is episode 127, Anchor Pause. Pausing is a skill which can be applied in many different ways. We can make use of pausing for many things. One thing that happens when we pause is that often we go from here to there, and we go from there to a third place. We go from the third place to the fourth place, and so on. Often we jump like this back and forth, like a pinball. And our focus, our energy is thereby scattered in many different directions. Instead, when we pause, what we might do then is to anchor ourselves. When we anchor ourselves, it might look like, and it even might feel like, we are not doing anything productive, that we are not doing anything helpful, but simply being passive. But today we will talk about anchor pausing, to make an anchor pause. And this is not passive at all. This is something very active. And this is also something very productive, if we wish it to be. Not necessarily, but if we wish it to be. An anchor pause it is quite similar to what we are doing right now. So once we decide that we wish to become an anchor, it is very much us that becomes the anchor in itself. Us pausing becomes an anchor. We become an anchor when we pause in such a way that we wish to become an anchor. something you could try. An exercise of sorts. If you have a friend or a family member, perhaps a co-worker, and you can see that they are working on something, they are thinking about something, they are in their mind going here and there. You can see that they are in a thought process, an active thought process. If you step close to that person or just sit nearby that person, and whilst you are minding your own business, you just say to yourself internally that you wish to become an anchor, that you wish to pause for a second or two in order for yourself to become an anchor. And once you have done this, just sort of try to get a sense, a subtle sense, a quite subtle sense of how you being an anchor, minding your own business but being an anchor, how that allows for the other person to sort of think better or more readily find what they are looking for. To pause like this, to do anchor pausing, we could argue that it reminds us somewhat of when we were kids. When we were kids and we were doing something, or thinking about something, or writing something, or working on a problem, trying to figure something out. And whilst doing that, we had a grown-up sitting close to us and just minding their own business, but feeling like an anchor. An image that we can easily see in our mind's eye is when you have an anchoring teacher in a classroom, and the teacher's mere presence of being an anchor makes the students focus more easily on their tasks at hand. This is anchor pausing. We could argue that the teacher's most important function is to be an anchor, to pause for a second or two in order to be an anchor for someone else. This podcast, you listening to me talking about pausing and different emotional skills, this is also an example of an anchor pause, that I, in this case, become your anchor, so that you might explore, think about whatever you wish to sort through. So, in an episode, I might be talking about this or that, but you, on the other hand, while listening to me, might be working on something else completely. But what you are listening for, what you are here for, why you are listening to me, might be that you just enjoy my anchoring. Maybe you can focus better when you have an anchor in the background. We all do. In modern thought, in modern popular thought, one message that we come across often is that each and every one of us must be productive in our own right at every given moment. We often come across this notion that you and me must be productive all the time. But that is not very smart, because we are not ready at every moment to do something productive. None of us are, and those of us who claim to be are carrying pretensions. So instead, say that we are talking about our family. You're thinking about your family, I'm thinking about my family. And one day, let's say Monday, we all feel that one family member in particular has something to achieve, and we feel that that person is in a headspace where it is good timing for that person to achieve that certain something. And in that case, it will be efficient, it will be productive if one other family member at least does anchor pausing, becomes an anchor for that person doing that specific task. And then on Tuesday, it might be us, ourselves, that needs to accomplish something or work something out. And then another family member might be the anchor for us. Within this dynamics is the thinking that within many different tasks, many different processes that we go through, we function better and at a higher level if we feel that nice feeling anchor in the background. We simply perform better, think better, arrive at better conclusions when we have a reassuring anchor in the background. Another possible way of approaching this skill anchor pausing is that if we wish to become an anchor, we are a better anchor if we are boring. The best anchor is a boring anchor. The best anchor is a boring person. A person not really standing out, just sitting there, pausing in a boring way. And to be boring is difficult. To be boring is a skill in itself. To be consciously boring. Many of us are easily bored, but few of us can become boring at will. The people that are the best at being boring, consciously boring, are senior folks, retired people, old people. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them are good at just sitting in their chair, pausing for more than 1 second or 2, and just being boring. It's a very nice presence to be in. And to anchor pause is to be like an old person, sitting there, being an anchor for their environment. But we do not need to wait until we are old to do this. It's very interesting that to be consciously boring is anything but boring. It's very interesting to try to figure out if we can be consciously boring. So when we try to be consciously boring, we actually become interesting in a sort of backhanded way. And when we become interesting in this way, it sort of helps the other person close to us to focus. It helps them reaching something profound within themselves. It's as if this consciously boring skill helps others to reach something interesting in themselves. That's how it works. And this skill to anchor pause, to be consciously boring, is maybe the most important skill a teacher can have, or a mentor can have, or a guide. To just sit there like an old person, being consciously boring, and indirectly reminding other people of what it means to be interesting. The best solution to be productive is to be interesting. It's the same thing. And that's what we are after. That's it for today. Thank you.